welcome to this week's Q&A. So to start off with, we did have a couple of questions about sleep and recovery, but as that's the topic for this week, we'll actually split them off and answer those in the separate videos later on. So the first question we'll go into is any tips to remain motivated? So a few of us are feeling like we've got to that midway part and we were really motivated to start off with, and now it's like, oh, this is actually quite a long run. It's 12 weeks. I've got another 6 weeks to go. Where am I going to go? How am I going to get there? Motivation-wise. Did you want to go for a few little tips there?
I'll start it off, yeah. So I think with anything with motivation, it's going back to that what we did in week 1 of having a goal and having a why. And like, if that why is big enough, as in if it means enough to you, that's probably going to be enough to keep you motivated, if you like. I don't really like the word motivated. It's one of them. It's just a bit of a word. But if you've got a big enough why, and that why is enough for you to keep going and keep pushing through, then that should pretty much be your motivation. So sometimes it's just a way of reminding yourself about that why, reminding yourself about the long-term goal, not the 12-week goal. 12 weeks is a really short period of time to actually just concentrate on these sort of things. We don't want you to get into sort of mid-December, January and completely forget the non-negotiables, completely forget why you was doing it and things like that. So we actually want that to be a long-term thing that you can actually keep turning up like years and years and years, not just 12 weeks. So for some it's quite daunting to actually look at it and think, right, I'm going to be training for the next 10, 15 years, but in reality that's what we want to do. So have a why that's going to be big enough for you to just keep going at that. I'm not saying at this intensity, some of this is quite intense, but to keep going over a longer period of time, that would be my biggest tip for motivation.
I think with motivation as well, you guys have got it really good because you don't have to go to the gym on your own, think of what you're going to train, and then how you're going to split it over the week. You can literally turn up. We've got the program sorted for you as well. So the fact that you've got the main accountability part and the discipline and all the other parts of training, we've covered it all for you. You've just got to show up. So all you have to do is be consistent to waking up and getting here. So if you just rely on being consistent and then disciplined to show up, then you don't need the motivation and you don't need all the extra energy of thinking what to do, how to do it, all that kind of stuff. So if you, instead of relying on motivation, just think, well, it's a part of who I am, it's part of what I do. I'm someone that wakes up now and I go to the gym. That's just me, that's my life now. Then you don't need to be motivated to do that, you just do it. A little bit like, you might have heard me say this before, brushing your teeth. You're not motivated to brush your teeth, it's just who you are, what you do, you get on with it, you don't think about it, you just do it. Again, you don't have to make your own toothpaste or anything like that, it's all sorted for you. So again, we've sorted the training, all you've got to do is show up. So I would say don't rely on the motivation, it's more the consistency, just showing up. So then the second question, overtraining, what does it mean? Do you want to talk about overtraining?
Yeah, so overtraining, again, it's a bit of a fad word. For me, overtraining is just under recovering. So it will be covered a little bit in the 2 coaching videos that we're going to do today, this week. So everyone's going to have different sort of thresholds or levels that they can recover from. Obviously, the longer you train, sort of like over as a period of time, the more, sort of the higher that threshold's going to be. So obviously you look at athletes, they can train for like 3, 4, 5 hours a day and still recover enough to keep doing that and keep hitting their PBs and stuff. For us, like more normal folk who are training maybe 3 to 5 times a week, that might be our threshold. And as long as that's programmed well enough and the sleep and recovery, which we're going to go into more, is on point, then there's no reason you should be overtraining. That sort of comes from trying to go 100% all of the time, like every single session. So even if you're training 3 times a week, if you're trying to go 100% in every single session for 12, 15 weeks, whatever it is, at some point you are going to hit a wall and it's going to hit. So it's making sure your recovery is on point. When with your training, obviously in the sessions and things, you'll find, I mean, sometimes you won't notice it, but you will find the program is actually written out so that some weeks you're working at about 50 to 70% as a maximum. There'll probably only be 1 week every 8 to 12 weeks that you will go like 100% in all of your lifts. We might work to a max in one exercise or two exercises in a session, but the way we program is that you're not 100% all of the time, so that you should be able to just keep training as you are. I don't know if I think I've covered everything there.
Yeah, and I think that as well is what we're here for as well. If you feel that you can go heavier in a weight, sometimes it's not always about going heavier, but it's about slowing it down, controlling it, and just using that weight in that movement. It's not about getting the max weight, max reps all the time. Like you said, it's working at those different percentages. So if you are ever unsure about it when you're training, just let us know and we'll just say, well, yeah, this week we do want to push for more, or this week, no, actually you're right, just stick with what you do and just keep working through, because you might have more push sessions throughout the week as well. But
second to last question. So how can I stay accountable? Covered bits of this in motivation, I'll let you go.
Another a couple of things. If you've got step count or fruit goals or water or anything that you want to stay accountable, so there's something outside of the gym this time. Something that I found really helpful for myself and other clients have said it's been helpful is to have either a flip calendar or like a piece of paper that you just stick on a wall somewhere, and just have like either 7-day blocks, like days of the week, however you want to put it, and just put a tick through each day, so that by the end of each week you can see how many ticks in the box you've achieved. So it's like minimal effort to stay accountable, but if you've got a piece of paper on your wall and you can see that 3 out of 5 days have got a big green tick out of them, the next week you're going to go, okay, I actually want more ticks. And then at the end of the month you'll be like, look at all these ticks. But it also helps on the flip verse to see that actually only 2 of the 7-day weeks weren't ticked, because then instead of those days being like, oh god, I'm off track and I'm the worst person in the world, you go, oh, it was only 1 out of 7 days, I've still got another 3 days to go of the week, I'll just tick the next 3 days off. So having a calendar or a grid or chart, whatever you want to set it up as, a whiteboard, just to tick through each week, each day, just helps with both staying accountable, but then also going that actually, if I didn't tick it off, it's not a disaster, I've got the rest of the month to carry on working on this. So I'd say number 1 tip for accountability is having something that you can see and tick off throughout the day or the week.
That covers it for me. Yeah, no, all good. Yeah. And then last question. This one it could be a bit of a bigger topic, to be fair, but so how do we go for this one? So I'll
the
sort of
question,
talk through it.
The question was, on my days off, I'm under eating. Like when I'm not training, I'm under eating. Is that good or bad?
It does depend a little bit on this one. So it depends on your goals. It depends what you're doing on them days where you're not as busy and you're in more control of what you're eating. So if you can really nail them days down, then having 1 or 2 days in the week where you might not get enough food in, you might not hit your proteins, or you might not even get enough water in, wouldn't worry too much. It's not going to be ideal. If your goal is more performance based and building muscle, then it is a little bit more important to be trying your best to hit them. But like I say, if it's going to be 1 or 2 days in the week, then I wouldn't worry too much. If your goal is more fat loss related, again, not ideal, depending on how you react to it, as in like on them days that you are under eating, do you then overeat massively the next day? If that's the case, then again, you might want to look at it a little bit more. But if not, it's not a bad thing as a short-term thing to have a few low days if fat loss is the goal.
Yeah, because it's like if you have a 7-day week, I guess everyone's kind of ideal and perfect routine would be having 3 to 4 meals, 30 to 40 grams in each meal, and you're training 3 or 4 times a week. So that's your perfect optimal week. So then if 2 of those days you're either under eating or you're not training, that's fine, as long as the rest of the ones have got those 3 meals with a decent structure. And then if those 2 days where you're not eating enough, you've still got a meal that's got high protein, and maybe you can get a few snacks of fruit, pieces of fruit in there and water, then yeah, don't worry about it. But if you find that those days are the other way around and it's only 2 days that you're eating well, but you've got another 7 where it's like you feel out of control, then that's where it's strip it back to the non-negotiables, think about the 3 meals, the water, the protein, and then we can start building stuff up from there. But yeah, calorie wise, I didn't answer that question.
I think you did, yeah. That is Q&A done for today. Some good questions there. So again, like every week, on your check-in forms, making sure you are getting your questions in. Messages are fine, but sometimes they do get forgotten about by the time we get here. So if we can get them on the check-in forms, that would be good.
Thank you guys. Speak to you soon.